It's been a while since we've done a feature like this, but regardless, we've spent a lot of time wondering this question. Which video game franchises, currently not doing very well or doing okay but could be much better, would be significantly better off if they were handed off to a different studio? Over the course of 2 features, we've suggested choices both obvious and not so obvious, and thinking about it, we have a few more ideas. In this feature then, we'll be taking a look at more video game franchises that might be better off if another game developer or development team was in charge of their future. As always, these are just hypothetical, dream, what-if scenarios, and obviously none of these are predictions or theories of any kind. You might look at some of these entries and go, well, that's just ridiculous, that would never happen. We know, that's kind of the premise. With that out of the way then, let's jump right in. 2D Metroid, why it isn't working so well. It's a bit unfair to say that the 2D Metroid series isn't doing so well because the last 2D Metroid game that we got was a darn good one. Samus Returns for the 3DS was a great comeback for the 2D Metroid games, and together, Nintendo and Mercury System did a great job on that. So it's not that 2D Metroid games aren't doing very well, it's just that they could be doing so much better. Of late, we've been seeing a boom in the indie scene that has been propelled largely by side-scrolling Metroidvania titles, some of which have been amazing enough to stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Super Metroid. And there's one developer behind one particular game that comes to mind when we think of the perfect match for a 2D Metroid title. How it could be better with Team Cherry. Really, there was only ever one correct answer for this one. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call Hollow Knight one of the greatest games ever made, period. From its immaculate level design, to its excellent combat, to its inch-perfect platforming, to its beautiful art design, and so much more. Hollow Knight exhibits a mastery over everything it tries to do, to the extent that it's hard to believe that it was largely made by a team of less than half a dozen people. It's one of the best Metroidvania games ever, right up there with the likes of Super Metroid, and a 2D Metroid game made by Team Cherry would be a dream come true for all concerned. Star Wars, why it isn't working so well. It's no secret that EA's management of its exclusive Star Wars license, a position any other developer would have given anything to be in, has been a colossal mess. One canceled game after another and a couple of disappointing releases are hardly what Star Wars fans wanted out of this deal. And sure, Jedi Fallen Order looks good, but barring one good game, can we really trust EA to do justice to this legendary property? The emphatic answer to that would be no. So, who would be better suited to making Star Wars games? How it could be better with Bungie. What does one expect out of a Star Wars experience? A rich science fiction world with excellent lore, great writing, characters, and solid storytelling, and excellent combat to go along with all of that, and an artistic flair to bring to life some truly imaginative locations. Bungie is a developer that ticks all of those boxes. Destiny has seen its ups and downs, sure, but at one point or another, especially when it's been at its best, the series has displayed all of those qualities, as did Halo, obviously, when Bungie was in charge of the series. Given their recent, inconsistent track record, Star Wars and Bungie as a combination would be a bit of a risk, sure, but they sure as hell would be a much better duo than Star Wars and EA. Mass Effect. Why it isn't working so well. Why Mass Effect isn't doing nearly as well as it should be is very well known to almost everyone. The downfall of the series is analogous to the downfall of BioWare itself. The Mass Effect trilogy was a stroke of genius, brilliant and memorable, barring a few blips, but Andromeda, though a decent game, just didn't live up to our understandably enormous expectations. Thanks to both poor management and messy handling of production by BioWare, as well as decisions made by EA, the series is now on hiatus. And though BioWare have assured us that Mass Effect is far from dead, even if they were to announce a sequel, there'd be a huge amount of skepticism surrounding it. How it could be better with CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red occupies the position in the industry right now that BioWare used to until a few years ago. A top-tier RPG developer with a knack for excellent world building, writing, storytelling, and choice and consequence mechanics. Those are all things that anyone looks for in a Mass Effect game, or any BioWare game for that matter, and CD Projekt Red would check all of those boxes and then some. Pokémon. Why it isn't working so well. No one can say that Pokemon isn't doing well right now. Every new game in the series, major or minor, is received well enough and sells gangbusters, so to suggest that Pokemon is in dire straits right now would be highly inaccurate. But as many fans of the series have suggested, more and more with each new game in fact, is that Pokemon is growing kind of stale. There's hardly any forward momentum in the series, and every new installment feels like more of the same, while the restrictive, linear nature of the games hasn't gone down well with a large part of the fan base either. How it could be better with Monolith Soft. Here's a dream scenario for a new Pokemon game, an open-ended, exploration-heavy, large-scale title. A short and simple pitch, but one that makes many fans of the series salivate. Monolith Soft have shown over the years that they're capable of doing that stuff very well. But so have many other developers, right? So why Monolith? Well, because the Xenoblade games also display the perfect template of varied monsters roaming around in open fields, which could function as a great foundation for a successful open-world Pokemon title. Avengers. Why it isn't working so well. Avengers in video games is not working well. It's not working well either. It just isn't. We know Square Enix is working on an Avengers game, and it could be great for all that we know. So Avengers being featured in this list isn't a knock against Square Enix. It's more about there being one developer out there who would be so perfect for a property such as this one. What would a great Avengers game ideally need to do? It would need to have a large and varied cast of characters. Each of those characters would need to be given the attention that they're due. In terms of gameplay, each of those characters would need to feel true to their roots and mechanically different from each other. If Super Smash Bros. Ultimate can do that with humongous roster, it would work absolute magic with Marvel's big crossover property. Dead Space. Why it isn't working so well? Well, because the appropriately named, in hindsight, Dead Space is dead. Visceral Games turned out to be yet another victim of EA's developer chopping block, and when Visceral was shut down, any hopes for seeing a new Dead Space title in the near future, if ever, went out the window. Sure, EA could hand the IP off to another developer, but it hardly seems like a thing they would do. Firstly, it's not live service, which automatically means that EA isn't interested. Secondly, just look at all the big dead properties EA owns and is doing nothing with. Dead Space is, unfortunately, going to be another one of those properties. Even if they were to do a Dead Space revival, the question arises once again, who would trust EA? How it could be better with Capcom. One company we would absolutely trust, owing to their excellent track record, is Capcom. And the reason for mentioning Capcom as an ideal match for Dead Space here is painfully obvious. Resident Evil 2. An excellent modernization of a classic title, incredibly tense and constantly engrossing. Exactly the sort of thing we all want from Dead Space. Of course, Resident Evil and Dead Space are hardly the exact same experience, but with Capcom's command over the survival horror genre and their development chops, it's hard to see them messing up this hypothetical scenario. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.